Today's reading is Genesis chapter 32, verses 22 to 31. The same night he got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 maids, and his 11 children, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. He took them and sent them across the stream, and likewise everything that he had. Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. When the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, he struck him on the hip socket, and Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. Then he said, "Let me go, for the day is breaking." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." So he said to him, "What is your name?" And he said, "Jacob." Then the man said, You shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with humans and have prevailed. Then Jacob asked him, "Please tell me your name." But he said, "Why is it that you ask my name?" And there he blessed him. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "For I have seen God face to face, and yet my life is preserved." The sun rose upon him as he passed Penuel, limping because of his hip.
La lectura de hoy viene de Génesis, capítulo 32, de versos 22 al 31. Aquella misma noche Jacob se levantó, tomó a sus 2 esposas, a sus 2 esclavas y a sus 11 hijos, y cruzó el vado del río Jaboc. Una vez que lo habían cruzado, hizo pasar también todas sus posesiones, quedándose solo. Entonces un hombre luchó con él hasta el amanecer. Cuando ese hombre se dio cuenta de que no podía vencer a Jacob, lo tocó en la coyuntura de la cadera y ésta se le dislocó mientras luchaban. Entonces el hombre le dijo, "Suéltame, que ya está por amanecer." "No te soltaré hasta que me bendigas", respondió Jacob. "¿Cómo te llamas?", le preguntó el hombre. "Me llamo Jacob", respondió. Entonces el hombre le dijo, "Ya no te llamarás Jacob, sino Israel, porque has luchado con Dios y con los hombres y has vencido." "¿Y tú, cómo te llamas?", le preguntó Jacob. "¿Por qué preguntas cómo me llamo?", le respondió el hombre. Y en ese mismo lugar lo bendijo. Jacob llamó a ese lugar Penuel, porque dijo, "He visto a Dios cara a cara y todavía sigo con vida." Cruzaba Jacob por el lugar llamado Penuel cuando salió el sol. A causa de su cadera dislocada, iba regresando.
A reading from Learning to Walk in the Dark by Barbara Brown Taylor. One of the main things that tip people towards garden variety depression, according to Miriam Greenspan, is a low tolerance for sadness. It is the inability to bear dark emotions that causes many of our most significant problems. When we cannot tolerate the dark, we try all kinds of artificial lights, including but not limited to drugs, alcohol, shopping, shallow physical intimacy, and hours in front of the television or computer. There are no dark emotions, Greenspan says, just unskillful ways of coping with emotions we cannot bear. Suffering comes from our reluctance to learn to walk in the dark.
We continue to reflect upon walking in the dark as we enter the 3rd week of Lent. Last week, you may recall from the liturgy, from Pastor Kay's reflection, that it touched upon God communicating with us through voices and visions. When we face the darkness, we may just experience communication with the divine, receiving new insight and understanding. But this week we are reminded that learning in the dark may require struggle. In the well-known passage that Pat and Richard read, Jacob spends some time in darkness on his own. On his way back to Canaan, he comes upon the Jabbok River, a tributary of the Jordan. And Jacob sends everyone across the river except himself, First to cross are his 2 wives, then his 2 women servants, and then 11 sons. He was a busy guy. Then went his possessions. At that point, maybe it got dark, Jacob remained on the other side of the river overnight. Jacob did not sleep much. Instead, he was visited by the presence of another. And they wrestled, lucha libre, all the way till the break of day. His time alone in the dark was a sleepless struggle. As we heard, Jacob apparently had a good hold on his opponent, as the presence, when daybreak, asked for Jacob to let him go. But Jacob would not release hold until he received a blessing. In response, Jacob is told that he will now be called Israel, for he had striven with God and men and had prevailed. There are more details to the passage, including Jacob naming the place and the enigmatic visitor damaging Jacob's hip socket. This passage encapsulates several different things for the Hebraic narrative, but for the context of our Lenten theme, it reveals another approach to facing darkness. In the Barbara Brown Taylor piece that Chris just read, quote, "It is the inability to bear dark emotion that causes many of our most significant problems. When we cannot tolerate the dark, we turn to artificial lights. There is an alternative to artificial lights, to distractions, to glitz and glitter, and a false feeding of the ego. It is something we find more of in the realm of patience, persistence, grit, trust, and courage. Some may call those things suffering, but our faith tells us otherwise. The avoidance of artificial light will ultimately release us from suffering. As Barbara Brown Taylor's writing suggests, suffering comes from the reluctance to learn to walk in the dark. So much of our lives we may be blessed with community and companions, but we all know there are certain things in life that we have to face by ourselves. And it is in those times that we must wrestle in the darkness, maybe even with God, before we can see the light. Let us confess our need to face the darkness, to face our fears, and to not turn away from the wrestling that God calls us to. Let us bow our heads in a word of prayer. O Lord, who laughs when we laugh and weeps when we weep, we confess that we struggle with the gift of mortality and its constant cycle of beginnings and endings. You inspire us with many hopes for the future. We enjoy so many blessings that we want to freeze time and hold on to them forever. When the moment ends, or when high expectations do not materialize, or when we realize that what we hope for will never be, we are overwhelmed with sadness and regret. It makes us want to run away. Help us, O God, to walk this Lenten journey with you, to learn to welcome the night, to embrace our sadness, doubt, and grief, and learn their lessons, so that when you offer us new beginnings, we may receive them as one rested from a night Sabbath, and not with the dark-eyed look of one who has stayed awake all night. Keep us from the futile attempt to resist the night and enable us to see in the dark. In the name of the Christ, who endured utter darkness, turning his face to Jerusalem and the cross, we pray. Amen.
Sí.
Brothers and sisters, hear the good news from Psalm 146. Blessed are those whose help is the God of Jacob, whose help is in the Lord their God. God is the maker of heaven and earth, the sea and everything in them, and God remains faithful forever. God upholds the cause of the oppressed and gives food to the hungry. The Lord sets prisoners free. The Lord gives sight to the blind. The Lord lifts up those who are bowed down, and the Lord loves the righteous. Friends, hear the good news of God. In Jesus Christ, we are made whole.